I have been promised a wild ride in this one. Ladies and gents, welcome back to the Midweek Muster. It's Myriad versus Team Liquid's Dimu. That's right. Benny Boy, the Brit, up against the adopted Brit from Hungary. Gonna be a fun one, actually. This is in the round of 16. Winner of this will go up against either Cat or Kaiser Johan. Dimu, I know a lot of people are really looking at this and going, man, you know, Dimu's just going to roll him. Historically, looks really good against Myriad. One, Myriad has been improving. And two, in fairness, Dimu, by his own admission on the weekend, hasn't been feeling very well. So he may not be on his A game, which means we could realistically see a big upset here. This is a good start to the series potentially for Myriad. Mongols on this map have looked pretty good against Japanese, especially with gold spawns like that. Look at this. Great blocker opportunity on the forward. Historically, like, Japanese have felt pretty good against Mongols since the Koka Township switch, because your Shinobi can give you presence in the feudal. Before we saw that meta, back when it used to be Kura Storehouse, Mongols were actually heavily favored. Knowing Dimu likes his Kura, though, I wouldn't be surprised if he does go for the Storehouse. Likely, we should be seeing Koka, simply because there is also water on this map. So, with that in mind, the Shinobi boys will be making an appearance. Yeah, we're getting a lot of Mongols on this map, right? So far, without a doubt, the most pick civs here has been Mongols, Japanese, and I'd say ABBA. I have, like, the surging number of English picks, though. I think the Council All-In has some very intriguing potency. So Outpost going up. He's going to go for the blocker on the stone, but also, most importantly, the wood line that's close by. I think it would have been better, actually, to maybe got the outpost here. That would have blocked the deer, one of the more realistic wood lines, and the gold. Love this as well. This is one of the reasons why Japanese have felt good on this map. It's not just about the fact your opponent lightly wants to go water and you can Shinobi rush him. It's also because you need to build houses. And by doing so, congrats, you now have a drop-off point for all this shoreline fish. It's actually kind of the biggest temptation actually for a Japanese player. Not just because of that, but also because when you get wheelbarrow, you gather from berries really quickly. And there's only 2 berries here, right? So you don't want to have to place a mill usually for that. But considering you always need more houses, just keep spamming them around. Mongols done really well on sheep though, right? 14 sheep for Ben. Meanwhile, 25 sheep for Myriad. Love the positioning of the TC as well. Just able to get as much value as possible. He's even got the Uvi in range if you want to go for like a double villager production. Obviously, it's not going to happen when you're going for a spear rush, but it would have been an option on the table. And that gold is insanely far away. Wait, am I missing something? Guys, am I blind or is Myriad missing a gold? What? What? Kavayu? We may need to talk a little about wilderness. What is that spawn? So guys, he should have 2 gold options. Typically you have one basically on the edge TC range, another one behind. Something went wrong here. Okay, thank you, Kayu. So, that's a big part of why we introduce new maps like this. They're not expected to be perfect for competitive play. That's not the goal. The goal is to help get them there. It's better to, you know, have it happen in a weekly format where it doesn't plague a tournament that's 1 month long. And then instead these maps can be ready for the 1 month longest. So Deerstone is going to be coming in. Dimu already has the Shinobi boys out. Yumi follow-up is pretty cool. Quite unique, but I think Japanese is kind of okay with doing this against the Mongols. Because the option is building archers slower than them, or you build Keshiks, which are just worse knights. Nice stab there as well, just taking out some of the boys. Right now, Mira's like, I've got him. There's no way he can possibly win. What a noob. Only 1 gold and he doesn't protect. Oh, so I'm meant to have a second. Oops. Yesterday was the second time it cost beat S-tier tournaments in the span of a couple of months. What, a spawn? I mean, so if we're being flat out honest about it, I don't think we as a community can have our cake and eat it. You get where I'm going with this? You either want random maps because of the diverse gameplay. Oh, because of crashes. Okay. All right, I was going to say, if it's because of the random gen, like, you can't have both, right? Like, it's either random because you like the diverse gameplay and you take the risk of being bad spawns or not. In regards to crashing, I mean, sadly, until we get a reconnect function, we don't have a good solution for that, right? I really wish we would get a reconnect function. You know, I have a fragment of hope because the pause, but I don't really, because as a developer, I know how you develop those systems, and most RTSs aren't designed with the idea of reconnects in mind. Like, fundamentally, structurally, the way that most RTSs are coded, adding in post support for reconnect is a nightmare. You pretty much, at least with the way that most RTSs are coded, would have to rebuild the entire netcode system from the ground up. Reconnect would be useless after one player loses a bunch of vills and army. It depends how quickly it detects input issues, like a disconnect, right? So once again, like that's solvable, but once again, you'd have to burrow down and build it all into the system from the ground up. It's a lot of work. Take it from someone who's actually done netcode before. Like, for example, you know when you have a really cool game that you like playing, you're like, this game's incredible. But I wish they'd add multiplayer. But, like, they're pretty much done with development. And they promise they'll add multiplayer, but it takes them, like, a year and a half. That's because they basically had to go in and add it to all the existing systems. They had to rebuild the way they actually function. So, Yumi plus Shinobi's a new one, actually. I kind of like it, though. It's pretty cool. Usually you're expecting Shinobi plus Horseman. Just makes sense you don't want to do that, though. Your opponent already has Spears, and Keshiks are just a better Horseman. If it wasn't not a Civ that had heavy cav, I think you would just be seeing Horseman plus Shinobi. You'd have to save the state information at all times to have to reconnect. Yeah, so well, we call that the buffer, right? So the whole idea of a buffer is like every time you make a move, it gets logged on the other person's side and registered. So if you'd reconnect, like when you'd reconnect, it would have to send you that buffer, which is all the data through the games. It's why a long time ago, like devs decided it wasn't a good idea, because RTS as being one of the good old school types of online games, at the time, the whole idea of someone having to download several hundred megabytes of data wasn't going to be a sound solution with really bad internet speeds. Keshiks just really can't get a lick in here, huh? Move speed is pretty frustrating on this army. Myriad, really what he needs to be looking for is, I think, a blocker on the pawns. Maybe he just rotates for the all-in timing. Like, the Keshiks, if they can find the village, is great. Finding the army is just tricky here, due to the mobility. Like, everything is 1.38 movement speed. They do have replays? Yeah, but... So, replays are weird. So a replay wouldn't work if that's what you're going for, because the way that replay systems work, to my knowledge in AoE4, is they register the gen, and so when you start a replay, it basically generates the map again with the seed, and then what it does as the follow-up is quite funky. It's re-simulating the moves that the players do, is my understanding of AoE4. And that's why, for example, you can speed up. But if you speed up the game, anyone with a bad PC may have noticed when you go 4 and 8x speed, it's not really 4x or 8x speed. Our PC is probably the best one for getting close to a true 8x speed. But even that's going to potentially fall a little bit shy, because what you're essentially doing is you are playing the game out at accelerated speed. Right? It's not you watching a replay. It's not like, for example, the game has had a recording going on in the background, and now we've got all this gameplay. Let's and be at the end. So that's a really big problem. That's why, for example, you can't just on the time bar on non-capture age click deeper in. As much as I wish you could. Dimu, now switching Mounted Samurai is quite peculiar here. I mean, I guess the issue is your opponent has a lot of archers, so if you don't have some samurai, the Shinobi just melt. But it kind of feels like Dimu missed his window here, which would have been Yumi bulk. He has at least been able to deny the Doc's attempts coming in, but now he's at risk of losing his own. Yeah, I'm trying to remember the last time I saw Feudal Samurai win, and I don't think I ever have. In, like, well over a year. Okay, so to the whole question, like, if they take all your inputs and again to replay it, could you not just, if someone disconnects, like, play at that point? Theoretically, you could, but then you still have to run the game in a very unique format. Like, you still have to figure out a way for someone to reconnect. But, like, the other thing you have to keep in mind there is it might make sense from a competitive level. It would be hated at a casual level. Imagine if someone reconnects and then you have to wait for them to catch up to the game state. If they need to reconnect at 50 minutes, right? You see the problem? For anyone who's played something like Dota 2, they know where I'm going with this. People aren't willing to wait 5 minutes if you DC, right? Like, we've all done it. When you're in a team game and someone disconnects and there's a pause function, you're already mashing the unpause button to try and get back into the game. Even people on the team of the person that have disconnected will do this. You know what? Let's focus on the game for a sec here, because this is looking really good for Myriad right now. Dimmu has some really big issues to solve for. He's trying a Yuumi Mass, but Yuumi Mass doesn't work unless you have substantially more than the Archer count. Right? The Keshet count is also really scary. Building Samurai into this is not great. But he knows if he builds Spears, the Archers just mop him. And you don't really want to be going Horseman, because Keshiks will easily fight that. Dives under the gold. Fortified Outpost is probably the best situation for Dimmu here. He does have the Steel Tower upgrade. I think Myriad would benefit from definitely getting the Siege Engineering here. One Ram would simplify everything he's doing at this stage. And he definitely has the Blacksmiths for that. Steel Tower just came in. And there's our resident Brit. Siege Engineering now coming in. Well, I think console has good performance with similar system PCs because they have to optimize for 200 PC and 2 console systems. Actually, it's more like the other way around. The thing that holds back most technological advancements in, like, from a software and hardware perspective is that devs are actually primarily developing games around current gen consoles, believe it or not. That's also why you're seeing, for example, the new generation of graphics cards, they're focusing on AI frame rendering instead of just adding more rasterization power. So yeah, it's not actually not a case of, like, you know, PC dictates developmental behavior. It's actually the other way around. And AMD's new GPU hasn't launched yet, so we can't really say. Lone Gate now coming in. So Dimmu is going to try to bypass. It needs to be a Euroshire drop in the archer range and more archers being pumped, actually. I think it's just saving Grace here. If it can save him. But look at the timing. No way! Myriad comes in the perfect moment. He can deny this. Dimmu has to commit now, and he knows it. He taps the hammers, but that's got a lot of villagers going down. Tech up complete. But now 12 worker deaths. And the army's still not upgraded. The Yorishiro drop did at least come in on the archery range. He put it on the back one to guarantee no burn, but the dive goes even deeper than this. Myriad is looking for scalps. Focus firing down, trying to remove the Shinobi from the engagement. Villagers now also being targeted. Love the micro. Sticks half the group in to deal with the Shinobi, sends the other ones for the villagers. That's now 18 worker deaths. And Myriad with almost a 10 eco lead, even against fishing. And still a handful of Keshiks remaining, right? The Yuumi have been vetted up. Congrats, you now feel like a normal archer. Trade art is still not going to be ideal for him. Myriad just simply has way too many feudal archers in here. He'll dive past the TC. He'll keep pressure on. The whole point with Yuumi is they look good when they can kite, but you're just not getting the breathing room to do that here. And behind that, the Rams are already knocking down the floating gate. All right, this might be one of the most value Ram plays I've seen out of a Mongol player in a very, very long time. Double Ram is just mopping it all up. And the Yuumi is non-existent as well. Keep in mind, Dimmu couldn't keep scaling because he lacked the tree line to gather off of 4 additional Yuumi play. This is looking like Myriad's game to win or lose at this stage. Feels like everything is up to him. He's starting to stockpile for Castle Age. He still has enough archers to kill more workers. At this point, Dimmu, I think, is just processing the inevitable loss. Once the Flowing Gate goes down, you don't have a transitional play. He only got 1 Yorishiro out. He can only build 1 archer type. He can't switch into mass men-at-arms or mass knights, even if he could afford them. It's going to be slow. Denial complete. Even Sandwich is the last of the Yuumi. What a sick opening game out of Myriad. I'm impressed, man. That timing was succinct. Dimu's idea for Yuumi, I think, works a lot better on different maps. On a map like this, with how scarce your starting wood is, I think just massing archers is really difficult. Which is interesting because, like, for a long time, that was the most popular play in Feudal Age. Feels like it's something you have to work a lot harder to earn here. And what we've learned from this game, guys, is that Mongols are OP. As has been highlighted in chat, Myriad did not need a good starting gold. Yet he is still in complete control of this game. Did we cast Core vs. Lash? Unfortunately, we had to skip it due to time constraints because we had the live series to the follow-up one. Maybe we'll have a look at it tomorrow if there's spare time to go around. Just check what the individual games are like. But I know most people are like, I already know the outcome. I don't want to see it. Dimu also felt really sick. Yeah, we already hit on that. But like, I try not to focus on that too much because I don't want to devalue that Myriad played really well here. This is a really cool execution. I feel like this map, like, you could maybe try and say, oh yeah, Dimu's sick. It could just also be Dimu wasn't necessarily prepared for the different style of this map. Because Wilderness is fairly different to anything else we have, right? I don't think there's a map that really compares directly. There are elements, fragments, things like, for example, Himiyama or Prairie for the tree lines. But then you've got like the Golden Heights type effect with the water side being so far away but being valuable. So it actually compacts a lot of different quirks from different maps into one. Tech up complete. I think at this stage, Dimu, he would need one hell of a move to make a comeback here. He's got Onimushi coming out in small quantities, but he doesn't really have the economy to flex that. In fact, at this stage, Dimu, he went Coca, right? He doesn't have food. He has to play risky out in the front, which means Keshiks can just eat him up. And yes, Dimu does have food on water, but remember, it's kind of limited in how much he can generate you, as you're seeing here. It's just me, or is Dimu always sick? He's an old man. What do you expect, man? Give him a few years, he'll be in diapers. Have his own wet nurse. The full work. Push coming in, and the whites give it away. Veteran season. All of a sudden, the one advantage that Yuumi maybe had in trading out doesn't exist anymore. Love the fact he's also prioritizing the wedge rivets for the dive. Step readout just gives you so much push potential behind this. I like it as well. I think Kurotai is preferable against, say, slow-moving armies. English, HRE. I mean, they've got much drills, but still. Yeah, but if you think about what Dimu is looking for here, you know, it's kiting, right? So Kurotai actually would have been quite worthless for Myriad because he'd never be able to unpack it. You'd always just see Dimu move away. So step readout's just smart for that reason because you're able to just keep pushing with a bigger army instead. Hit coming in, Dimu. He can't play this game without gold, surely. Steel Arrow 2 is on the way, but at a time where it's mirrored by wedge rivets. And remember, the win condition here isn't the Keshiks, it's just archers. All of a sudden, Dimu, he has what? Maybe 5 trees left to gather here? Another 6 or 8 up top? There's nothing else he can touch. So that means an unexpected beginning to this series. Myriad is going to be taking the lead against the guy who has made back-to-back grand final appearances in midweek muster. Can he clean him up in 2? Or is Dimu going to find a swell, a rise up to get back in this series? That's what we're going to be finding out. Because this one is definitely a brutal beginning for him. Yeah, this is full desperation mode. GG comes out. Let's get ready for game number 2. Here we go. Game number 2. And it is going to be Dimu on the Rus, Myriad on the Deli. You guys might remember this from the weekend. Dimu versus Mio Micah, a very polarizing game. One that like Mio should have won as the Deli, but ended up kind of punting it away. Dimu just solid on his defense. This matchup, however, if executed with aggression for the Delhi, feels incredibly difficult for Roos to compete in. We've seen it from B multiple times. In fact, he's the scary boogeyman when it comes to this matchup. Curious if Myriad has been reviewing those games at all and taking things in mind there. A Spearman opening into a Ghazi follow-up can basically deny Roos from Pro Scouts play, especially when they get a spawn like this. We're going to hit the 2x just for the first 2 or 3 minutes of this. Golden Gate is going to be coming in. Dome of Faith on the other side. Looking at the Sacred Site spawn, it's reasonable. It's not crazy. It's nothing that like Mira's going to have be able to exploit insanely well. Usually in this matchup, like the Roos are just looking for castle quite quickly. You can sometimes bait them into adding in a stables and 1 or 2 knights. They don't want to because for a start, they don't touch their gold. So genning knights is hard and that slows down the castle timing. The other awkward issue is like you don't even need a stables for scouts. Instead, you just go for this tried, true, and patented double hunting cabin opening. Rivals is just Marvel, like Overwatch with Marvel skins. Okay, so here's the thing I'd say though, like it's kind of succeeding in killing Overwatch, isn't it? If you look at the amount of content creators moving across and everything else. The interesting part to me when I think about these type of things is like, I don't know, you don't need to reinvent the wheel if you can do the wheel better for sure. I do, by the way, think that we're kind of approaching a point where I'm hoping AAA gaming fundamentally changes. It needs to happen. I think games as a live service has been kind of problematic for many areas. But yeah, I don't know. I've been playing a bit of Marvel Rivals and I've been enjoying it. Like, it's more chill, although it may still make you salty at times. I'm not surprised that it's taken off. Like, it's approachable, right? It's what I've like been saying about AoE4. I'd love to see a mode that's just approachable. So I think this game is, as cool as it is, it's still very daunting for new people, right? And the worry is, like, if you don't find a way of getting new people in, the older your game gets, the more daunting it becomes, the more gatekept it becomes, right? That's actually why I think RTS is the perfect example of a game genre that needs regular updates that flip the table, right? Like rebalancing civs, etc. So nice denial already from Myriad here with the Ghazi. Then we just have to run home. We'll even bait him underneath the TC a little bit. We don't have the spears yet from Myriad, though. Which is very surprising, actually. He's just going raw Ghazi. I mean, in some ways, I can see where he's coming from. You know your opponent's going to try to rush castle. You know he's going to go horse archers. You don't really want to build spears against horse archers. I don't think it's terrible to do so, because the reality is if horse archers want to attack back, the spearmen do gap close. And it just means that you have a more powerful wallop to deny any sort of pro scouts play. Speaking of which, he just got seen. Nicely done. So, at this stage, what has Ben really got out of this? 2 deer? No way. Is he really only got 2 deer out of this? No, he got more. Okay. I was a little bit worried there. No, he snatched from the other side, I guess. Wait, I'm an idiot. Well, I'm not counting right. Sorry, 1 deer stack I meant. So he's got 1 deer stack total. So 7 deer home. Not bad, right? That's actually enough to justify. That's enough to get you to Castle Age and be comfortable. Mira now going archers. Interesting choice here at this delayed timing. Sacred sites are being moved for, so you will at least get the free capture before the force archers come out. We have got high trade house coming in, though. Get your numbers in, folks. I think that already exists in StarCraft 2, which had co-op missions for the casuals. Yeah, and I don't know why we don't see any sort of co-op mode for AoE 4. Kind of sad. I think it could be pretty popular, actually. Especially if you create some sort of really, really painful, excruciating game modes, you know? Like, they can start easy, but can scale up. Almost like a They Are Billions type effect. I do think that PvE is just so underrated nowadays in RTSs. Everyone wants to be StarCraft, right? Which means that everyone wants to be the pinnacle of 1v1. And I don't think you need to. Like, what do you think's generating more money per year at this point? StarCraft 2 or Europa Universalis 4? I know Europa can have a PvP, but I can guarantee people don't play it for the PvP. They play it for the PvE. Majority of people, myself included. Archer range is now coming in. High trade house looks like it's going to be reasonable, actually. 134 or 133. Gazi are going to be raiding in, but it's so difficult when the Wooden Fortresses come up. Dimu could have actually went for a little bit of gold exchange to get his hands on the stone to get a castle turret. Would have minimized any losses. Instead, it looks like it's going to be, what, 2 workers going down? Mirrorhead is mirroring. And he's able to do so because he's got all that gold gen. So at this point, he's just kind of trashing the Ghazi to get as much as he can out of it. It's not the worst exchange. It's forcing out of time, which is inherently slowing down your opponent. Like, at this stage, Dimu only has a single archer range installed. That was probably the best value that Mirrorhead could have got out of the Ghazi. So good start here. Now, usually the follow-up is to look towards elephants. Not immediately, but fairly swiftly. To begin with, Mirrorhead's probably going to want to add in a few lancers just to raid into the base again, like he just done. And yeah, he's 134. Household Landing's now going to be coming through. 1s if you think Mirrorhead's going to win this. 2s if you think Dumu's going to take it. I think things are looking okay for Mirrorhead right now. That eco chip damage is pretty big. Although one problem I do see is, did he actually queue pro scouts? Yeah, so he is bringing the deer home himself. It's still going to be a majority going for Dimu. But he's at least got someone to compete with. And I love the wall in. This is a perfect counter to horse archer play. It's why usually you go for the spearman, right? Because the spearman's a better blocker against the scouts. And then the follow-up value is you just go and wall in the sights. Which, I think the other reason why I prefer Ghazi spears over Ghazi archer is when you go archer, you have to gather more wood to then make this play. And wood isn't your benefit, right? Your benefit is gathering food because your berries are so quick. So by going spear and horseman, you're inflating the amount of food you use, but decrease the amount of wood. So you see how it's really beneficial there. Alex are going to start being yoinked. Dimu, aware of it, is going to check. Great timing there. Yeah, smart read. He denies the walls as well, so looks like only 1 sacred site might get walled up here. It's only 2 relics on the way home from Mirrorhead as well. Not exactly highly competitive timing for the Delhi. In fact, he's going to try to make it free, but obviously 1 is going to get denied here. We have got this relic coming in. Got a second one from the left side. Looks like he did actually dodge death over here. Dimu is hoovering relics himself, so this is looking like a pretty damn good 3-2 split for Benny Boy. Now, the follow-up play for Dimu could be to go into a group of horsemen, just anticipating your opponent's trying to play archer as a counter. Normally, like, you'd expect more Ghazi, but Mirrorhead has been kind of slow on that pump. We have got home blades on the way, but I don't think you really want to be rushing lancers to the main battle of the horse archers. We mentioned them as like a raiding force, so 2 or 3. Right now, Mirrorhead just needs something, though. Like, his army is kind of pathetic with the amount of horse archers coming. Starting to think, like, what could they do to make horse archers feel a bit more appropriate? Because the thing is, like, horse archers, it wasn't just the pro scouts meta that brought them back in full force. You know what else done it, guys? Walling is so much harder. Look at how long this is going to take to build. Like, the amount of opportunity for horse archers to get in is kind of crazy. I think once they just fix anim cancelling, we'll probably be okay with them. Mirrorhead has got the Tower Elephant coming, which is the perfect counter. We're going to see a switcheroo into Men-at-Arms from Dimu. Not going to be feeling great if Mirrorhead reads right and goes crossbows. Usually crossbows does feel better to get into, but I guess Mirrorhead just feels a little bit budgeted, which is why he's going archers. Still not hard enough? Okay, got it. So what we should do is have a Mongol-only tournament, and then nobody can wall. Ah, there we go. This is a really big spike timing for Dimu. Boys Fortitude just allows you to dominate a lot of these fights. For most players, I think this has been the most uncomfortable phase in the game. When the horse archer count is close to 30 and Boys Fortitude comes in, it's a ridiculous surge of health, right? Like what felt like glass cannons you could trade with all of a sudden becomes tanky gods. It's crazy that he's still got 2 sacred sites like this as well. I mean, Mirrorhead, you gotta start wondering, like, was the Ghazi punt worth it? I think I still stand by it. It felt worth it, right? But the read by Dumu was just correct. The moment those Ghazi dove, he just understood there was nothing left to defend on the map, right? Like, so this was just a great read by Ben, not necessarily a mistake by Myriad. Scholar count is still inflating. I mean, you know, a lot of people are going to be thinking, oh, Delhi go Imperial. I don't think you can rush it here. Walls are going up from Dumu. So reality is we're probably looking at 2 TC play behind this. Still gathering the rest of the deer up from close to home. And he's got plenty of berries inside his terrain here, right? So there's not going to be a panicked rush into farms here. There's actually a growing risk that Myriad might have to farm first, simply because he's not going to make berries remaining. Those he does are out in Horse Archer territory. You need a midweek mix-up to do this Rise of Khan free-for-all out of Blue Moon. What? I don't know, man. Like, I kind of feel like most people are over the free-for-all vibe. It comes around in Big Force once a year, and then people almost seem burnt out from it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my vibe. Ghazi coming in. Ghazi are going to try to rotate, but there's too many spearmen. Saints Blessing activates as well, so the archer is just kind of tickling the stage. The Tower Elephants are still a problem. Realistically, Myriad should be able to win a fight off the back of them, but what Dumu's doing a great job of doing is ignoring the Tower Elephants. He's taking out everything around them here. Yeah, so congrats, Elephants survive, but everything else has to die, right? More spearmen are going to be on the way. Needs to be careful. All right, there was a horse there. Next wave of spearmen is going to be in. And this is where you just have to kite. Myriad is scaling more Tower Elephants. It is the winning play. You'd think spearmen are the counter here, but they're really not. Dumu needs horsemen. Just might not feel like he can actually afford them. And remember, horseman's going to feel a lot better because you played Boy's Fortitude. It's what makes it make so much sense here. CCC is in. So next step should be Dumu looking to scale farms. Once he does that, by about like 20 minutes, you'll start seeing horsemen come out. And that's when what Myriad needs to make sure he's done is kept the Tower Elephants alive. Not like this one, be like this one. And then go into War Elephants. Right? So, you know, believe it or not, Delhi's greatest form here is elephants. A lot of elephants. Drongo threatened me to not challenge the Outback. Not really. It's just, I don't think there's as much desire for it. The problem is that the reality is, whether I like it or lump it, Age of Empires 4 is very much a 1v1 focused community. A lot of us are going to say we play team games, but the reality is, when you go and watch a stream, if your options are to watch a 1v1 between high-level players, or a 3v3 between high-level players, 8 out of 10 of you, actually, I'd say 9 out of 10 of you, are going to watch the 1v1. Just the grim reality. Because Age of Empires 4, as much as we might enjoy playing team games, it's not really a game designed around team games. Never has been. Maybe some delusion to believe it was, but it really hasn't been. You can tell it wasn't from the early days by the fact that you could basically pull a player out of the game by killing the landmarks when the game first came out. Looks like horse archers have snuck out here. Myriad has started adding the farms. That has yet to be mirrored by Dumu, though. However, this is a good strike. Actually finds the stone gathering. This is key information. He knows now the keep drops are on the way. So the objective of Myriad now is to try and lock in the sacred sites, keep drop them, and scale economy from there. With this info, it means that Dumu knows to play wider. Don't want to be stuck in one location here. Just like watching a high-level FFA. Yeah, but you know what makes the high-level FFA enjoyable to watch? It's a format that works. Right? Like, the thing that made free-for-alls good to watch was ones where you're rewarded for not camping, i.e., you get points for kills and it's a tournament format. But to do that, you need to have a lot of money to make the players even want to play. And that's before we get into the logistics issue of, like, you now have to get 8 players to turn up one time instead of 2. So many extra layers to the cake. Great raid here, by the way. Myriad still doesn't have textiles. Big no-no in this situation. Now finds himself 13 villages behind. Yeah, he's slowly getting grinded down, man. These horse archers are destroying him, and they're going to find him again. I'm starting to think Ben ain't dead yet. This is looking like a man who's found his second win is ready for game 3. It's now almost a 20 villager lead. FFAs are so random it never feels like a display of skill. Yes, no. Like, the randomness gets minimized if you play more games, etc., right? And we talked about this already. Like, you know, that applies in the 1v1 formats where if you play enough rounds, then you can get a true outcome, a true read of the results compared to, say, playing, you know, a best of 1. So walls are up. Dimmu is basically fully encapsulated. Just needs to finish the north side. And, oh. Okay, he's not fully walled. There's still an opening. Tricky part is you've got elephants. You don't really want to run all the way around. Ops mode is bad for watching team games. Even if it was good, fundamentally, the way that team games is designed is not fun for people to watch. You get what I mean? Like, the optimal strategy is usually to try to boom. Not always guaranteed. There is an aggro player. In some ways, it should feel better because there's more stuff going on. But, like, even with that more stuff going on, what that means is more clicking around the map, more looking around the map. When you move the camera too aggressively, too quickly in a game like Age of Empires 4, people get confused. Like, if I do this, and I do this, and I do this, I do this, I do this. How many of you clocked out throughout those movements? How many of you tracked all the things I was looking at? Doesn't mean you're a bad player because you didn't track everything. Just means you have realistic expectations as a spectator, right? It's like watching a fight scene, right? Sometimes it's kind of cool to have that first-person POV and back and forth between them each punching each other. It's cool for about 3 camera shots, but then you really just want to see the fight from the side. We've got a keep drop coming. Myriad. We talked about this as his win condition, right? First keep to be dropped. Other 2 are not fully secure, though. Definitely not guaranteed, but he's basically taking a punt at the hardest sacred site for him to reach right now. Turns to a game of diplomacy and side deals. Hate it. I mean, that's fundamentally always been the issue with free-for-alls in RTSs in general. They've always been that way. But it doesn't mean they can't deliver the best content. Like, guys, remember when I raided you guys through to Grubby's free-for-all tournament? With Ludwig, Tyler, all those other creators? That crap was hilarious. I know we want to have, like, esports and we want to have, like, tournaments be the pinnacle of competitive, but for spectators, a lot of them, before they even reach the point of caring about the pinnacle of competitive, they want to have the pinnacle of entertaining. So keep us up. The Dimmu does have 4 mangoes and a lot of torches. And this is a fresh keep. He doesn't even have the Wi-Fi yet. Other tricky part is this mango play doesn't just count the castle drop. It counts the tower elephants. Myriad only has 9 Ghazi. Like Dimmu is going to be backing up here. So he doesn't want to contest it just yet. We do have farms now coming in. So first farms to actually appear. It's going to be his first cluster online. Good timing as well because the berries are about to run dry. Blind FFA eliminates diplomacy only if you can afford to fly the players out to a LAN environment and monitor all their PCs. We do like to believe that every player would not collude. The reality is it's not the truth. I always say when you put money online, throw the idea that everyone is morally and ethically objective out the window. A perfect example of this is why low elo tournaments with cash prize pools doesn't work. Even you think like in Dota 2, I remember when people were like, let's just make a $500 prize pool tournament for Crusaders. Oh, only the Crusader ranks, the low like gold ranks will compete. Nope. Without failure, there would be a Conqueror level Smurf in those tournaments. Even when the prize pool would basically be $50 per person. You'd be shocked what people would do for a little bit of cash. Oh, yeah, you'd be shocked what people would do to break through a wall. Mangoes. I'm going to be able to scare them away. I mean, that right there is the difference between roost walls and normal wood walls. It's still going to break, but it makes him hesitate about breaking through. Sacred sites had to be recapped, by the way. There was a decap coming in. So that clock got reset long enough that Dimmu can now very comfortably look towards Imperial before breaking out. My worry is, as this goes a bit deeper, Delhi aren't necessarily favored. Myriad's adding in more TCs via the castles. Ergo, he's going to have more strain on his economy, which means less military units, which means less likelihood of Imperial Age here, right? And a guy who only right now has 21 farms. That's a big spender bender. Rather watch noob streamers memeing an FFA and Pro? Exactly. It's about entertainment, right? This has like been one of the cruxes of AE4. It's why in the past I've been, I think, one of the most vocal people about finding ways of speeding up the game. It is a slow-moving game. So from like a spectating perspective, you have to find ways of keeping people engaged. That's why we have mini games. We have these talks in downtimes. Because unlike, say, Dota 2 or like Counter-Strike, there isn't this visceral consistency into big, impactful things being guaranteed to happen. Like, oh my god, he's going high armory. It's on the way. All right, this is going to be the backbreaker. If Dimu just immediately stockpiles for adjustable crossbars, he can wipe everything. Like, yeah, I like to believe, like, when we have these type of discussions, it makes the cast more enjoyable, per se, than me just focusing on what's happening on screen. Because, like I said, the pace of things that's happening on screen is, you know, quite often with AE4, maybe playing it feels really intense at all times, but watching it, very relaxing, right? There's down times where you can highlight what they're changing into, but then what do you talk about? So, Myriad is starting to save up for Imperial here. Dimu most definitely being to the punch. And look at the resources he saved. This feels as if it's inevitable for adjustable crossbars. He just needs to fix the wood. He'll open up by getting the elite infantry techs. With 6 mangoes, crossbars feels too good. Are you kidding me? He's breaking the keep, which is free. Oh, that's so cheeky. He knows Myriad must be mirroring tech up, so he can't compete. So Central Castle is going to be lost here. There's a little bit of burn through attempt, but if only 3 Ghazi, it's not going to work. Pro free-for-all should just pay everyone a flat participation remuneration and then let them have fun. That's the problem, though, is like, some people's psychotic idea of fun is adding in 20 TCs. You'd think you get the wild experience, but you don't get the wild experience you'd think. Right? It's why, like, if I'm organizing a tournament and I want to have a good show match, I want to think deep about who's going to be in that show match. Because I know there's certain players that will deliver hilarious stuff. Others will deliver snooze fests. Right? And it's so important to have the hilarious stuff because a show match doesn't fundamentally matter. Show matches became a part of broadcast essentially to create more entertainment to extend the show while you get ready for things like, you know, the grand finals. So, Imp has been reached. Myriad has a problem here. Dimu's had enough time that he's got some substantial techs in. Adjustable crossbars is coming in a minute and 10 seconds. He's already got the elite techs. Meanwhile, Myriad is still got to wait a minute and a half for his own. And Dimu is not waiting around. He's trying to pop. He wants to swing it around. Marching onto the tree line. We'll be able to find a few villages. Myriad might be forced to fight before he's ready here. He's posturing. Mango upgrades are getting close. He has to know it as well. It's 40 seconds away. If he takes a slow approach to this fight, he's in trouble. This many elephants, surely he should be able to run through it. Starts to march in here. But the spearmen are going to counterattack it. The mangoes are starting to hit that back line, which is where the terror elephants already are. Double the whammy on one spot here. All elephants are dead. He's bought the time necessary. Crossbars is about to come in, 15 seconds away. Once that tech completes, everything here gets erased. The entire army will essentially be countered by mangoes. Like every single Imperial game. But this is to the extreme. He's even melee moding them. No. It just came through. This looks over. He's trying to backstab one of the mangoes now, but it's only a single elephant. Then again, it is a gunning elephant. I don't think it's going to be quick enough, though. Horseman just got elited. Mango's are going to turn onto it. Myriad has been spent. 2/3 of his military are scholars. And there is no amount of book reading that you can do that will find you a solution out of this. Dimu just has to pump going. Look at the mini-map. So many troops coming in, so little for Myriad. Looks like Benny Boy is going to be able to find that second window we talked about. We will be seeing a game number 3 between these two to decide the victor, and it's going to take place on Rocky River. Thinking about their drafts, you know, you've got either Malian or English for Dimu. Meanwhile, Myriad has either the HRE or the Iobid. That's a scary final game, folks, because Myriad can pretty much boldly and blindly pick HRE and be confident that it can deal with either. Yeah, at this point, Myriad is just flailing into his deathbed. And the torch is coming in on the Palace of Sultan. He knows it's the one thing that might be able to get him back in. Gunpowder elephants are their very own beast. They would take the MiC to a new level if they somehow came back in this one, though. There you go, guys. The countered elephants. It's not spears. It's definitely not bombards. It's mangoes. A deciding game here. Dimu potentially on the ropes, actually, because HRE versus Malians is a matchup that HRE chow down on. This may prove to be difficult. Malians, especially with a gold spawn like that, are going to get outpost rushed. We already have the Rax rush coming in. Wouldn't be surprised if the villager gets pulled by the time the second spearman is running across the map. Yeah, this has become a really popular play for HRE in certain matchups, Malian being probably the most obvious one. You know your opponent's going to have to build infrastructure away from the TC, so you know you'll get return value out of doing this. It's also incredibly healthy in the current meta because of the follow-up from the Pro Scouts. March and Dual Spearmen are one of the best counters to Pro Scouts. So building them in age early doesn't mean they're just going to last only Dark Age. This unit is going to find value in the next stage. It's also against a Civ that doesn't want to rush archers. Typically, if you're going to go ranged unit here as Malians, you're going to go javelins. Javelins don't get bonus damage against spears. Yeah. It's a really good start for him. I mean, Dimu, what worries me is these gold spawns are horrific. Yeah, both of them chained together on the flank and beyond the tree line. So he's got nothing defensive here. Like, in an ideal world, the spawn that Dimu was looking for was the goal to be here, like where the berries are. That would have given him a little bit of safety. This just feels like you're stuck in no man's land. Dimu might have to go Saharan Trade Network. There's no way he just manses, right? There's this grand temptation to resist going for the Saharan. But it would mean that you can't really compete against Fast Castle at all. Oh man, and if he doesn't hurry up, the Saharan will be too late as well. He'd have to place it back here. Ideally, I guess you don't want to block your own pit mine, but you might have to. He just goes Mansa. Okay, so what Dimu's doing with this, his logic is the pit mine should last long enough that with the Mansa, he'll get enough passive gold to go in for Pro Scout still. The tricky part, though, is it means you're going to have nothing else to support the Pro Scouts. Yeah, this play just feels so toxic. You know what would be a sick follow-up for Myriad? I hope he does it, actually. Just walk around here and build a tiny wall. I think that wall is entirely worth it. It stops your opponent sneaking for the other golds entirely. It also gives you a pivot point. You can build a gate on there, and if you get chased and outmatched, you have an escape plan. It's the interesting thing I'm waiting for players to do with this is because a lot of the time when they play HRE, they know the outpost is valuable, but then they're like, oh man, I need this guy back at base because 40% gathering speed. So they just don't even think about what else they could do out here. How does Dimu solve for this now? Well, as we said, it's almost guaranteed to be Pro Scouts. The time is going to be very delayed. He can open with Scouts and follow up, but I think realistically what you need to do here is Archers. Without Archers, like, the Scouts aren't going to be able to do anything against this. It does mean you're going to basically build not the counter to mass HRE Archer blob, which feels like death sentence here. Now, Arkan is going to be juicy for any sort of transition he wants, because that is going to cover the gold and the wood. Set the speed up a little bit. So archer range players coming in as expected. The sad part is you won't be able to catch these spears. The good news is if this was truly going to be pro scouts, you'll now have a way of protecting the deer gathering. Right? You can just move around with them, guard them. At this point, the play paid for itself for Myriad. Right? He took out the pit mine 150, took out 2 houses. So 200 wood invested. Yes, he spent more for the spears, but as we mentioned, this is a play that keeps value. That is slightly aggressive. 13 villagers to build the Ark and maybe, I would say slightly overkill. That's incredibly high. But it's all about timing, right? Like, because he needs to try and mirror the pro scouts, he understands that the passive gold is churning in for Dimmu. On stats, has at least rifle spears. Survives on 1 HP. He's just kind of min-maxing each of them before they become permanent garrison troopers. I like that. Another thing I'd love to see here is with arrow slits, if you walk around this side, by the time the villagers eat this tree, you'll be able to hit them. Yeah, so this is why I wanted that follow-up wall, right? Look at the difference it would have made. This play would have never happened. Instead, does he see it? I'm actually not sure if he does. Because spectator vision's a bit weird. There's a chance he actually doesn't see that pit mine. He will see the house, however, so he now knows that Dimmu has got access to gold. And yeah, he's going to be able to march up there. But unfortunately for him, there's already 2 archers up here. Yeah, a little bit of a misplay by Myriad. Pro Scouts is at least on the way, and that's the most important thing, is that Dimmu has now dragged his feet going for his next food source. And yeah, it seems he did scout it. He did have the vision. Because the towers see really far anyway. As a former Malian enjoyer, I feel bad for Dimmu. But as a newly found HRE enjoyer, oh my... Is that the follow-up that I'm missing there? Kind of curious. 1's if you're an HRE enjoyer, 2's if you're a Malian enjoyer. I have a feeling I've got more HRE enjoyers. Really? That's quite split. I'm kind of surprised. And then again, like, considering the way that I'd say the majority of AoE 4 players like to play, Malians more recent... no, I'd say they've both been boomer civs traditionally, right? I was going to say, like, Malians is very safe economically and gets really good economy. But so is HRE. HRE the most boring to watch right now? I would disagree that HRE the most boring to watch now. If you go back before the Marching Drills buff, sure. Because all they do is try to go fast Imperial. But now they play a lot of Feudal. They're actually probably one of the most Feudal present civs in the game right now. Now, you could argue they're a little bit too strong, and that makes them boring, but like outside that, in terms of them doing things, that I actually appreciate. It kind of makes me wonder what would happen if we just buffed everyone's economy and movement speed. Like if we just had the simulation speed multiplier I was talking about. Every game's the same? I'm sorry, and every game of like half the civs at the moment isn't? This is the importance of like regular patch adjustments, right? Otherwise the meta sets, and if the meta sets, it doesn't move. The best civs are the ones that have options, right? Like, usually have options now, so they're intriguing to watch. Definitely don't feel balanced, but they're intriguing to watch. So Myriad is just zerging troops across. He did go into archers, because remember what we said, Dimmu just doesn't have great gold access. He's only got the passive gold, right? So he's getting 175 gold a minute. He can scale a few jabs with that, but not a crazy amount. And you can already see that Myriad is prepping the horsemen as well. This is a bit of a pickle for Dimmu. He does have javelins on the way, but that means he's hard counted by horsemen, which he already sees, right? Like, he's keeping warrior scouts here to basically protect him. The problem is, like, warrior scouts damage is negligible. Usually when you have a horseman on horseman engagement, you can't just run your horseman past onto the enemy's archers, because then they'll do the same. But here, you don't care. Like, if he wants, Myriad can just ignore these scouts and go straight after the horsemen. Straight after the archers, rather. It's kind of interesting that he doesn't. I don't think this is necessary entirely. But in fairness, there's only one Jav, right? So, like, you don't need to worry about your archers being countered yet. Other sad reality is, remember, warrior scouts don't have ranged armor like horsemen. So as a front line, yes, in terms of, like, efficiency for spend, they're decent. But they're not going to last as long as a pony. Not a horseman pony. You refuse to agree with me for religious reasons? Look, you ask one group of people if they want to discover Tzeentch with you, and this is how you get treated. I mean, come on. You could teach us things. Okay, this tree line is now kind of death waiting to happen. I like that Dumu is identified and is looking to remove it. There is a risk that he's going to get removed from the game at this rate, though. Steel Arrow's coming in. The advantage Dumu has had is he's very smart about this. He did actually get Blacksmith decks very aggressively. Horseman Clash is going to come in. If you are going to wrap around the backside here onto the archers, that's going to force a full retreat out of Dumu. Needs to be careful because the villagers are seen now. That's pulling away just in time there. Outpost is going to go down. Myriad may have overextended slightly here. Might have needed to get more horsemen in. Archers are going to get chased away. The problem right now is, like, sofas are looking good for the moment, but these are really, really expensive. And because they're mirroring the horsemen, although they'll eventually win, they're not getting bonus damage there, right? The quick sweeper is on the backside. Good fight. If Dimmu can keep pushing off of this, it could bode well for him right now. Because remember, Myriad has been hoovering a lot of resources off the map. Meanwhile, for Dimmu, because his warrior scouts were standing there the entire time, they haven't actually been pulling many deer home. So while this is a good start, what Dimmu now needs to do is find a way of keep pushing with probably very limited food, actually. Like, sheep count is down to 5. And I'm pretty sure he has maybe, like, 2 deer here, max. Myriad now going for those men-at-arms. Yeah, I was wondering when we might see this. This is the kind of classic play that we eventually see out of a long feudal HRE. This is a play that became really popular again with the arrival of Pro Scouts. Before the Pro Scouts meta, men-at-arms wasn't really as desirable. You were usually looking at archer spearmen and then try to go castle. Dimmu is at least getting Sofa. The way this plays out well for Dimmu is if it goes stalemate. If it goes stalemate and both you go castle, Sofa are MVP. However, if Mirai just keeps attacking him, you feel bad every time you build a Sofa. And he's going to try to kite with the injured. Myriad, what the... Okay, can we just talk about this economy? I looked up there maybe 30 seconds ago, and it was a war economy all in the bush. Apparently, now we've gone full Spock, and we're living long and prospering here. He's got castle ready to trigger. The drop-off rate on this Civ. I mean, it's so deceptive, because unlike other Civs, when you get wheelbarrow, plus you've got the push carts, the amount of food you hold on to before dropping off is ludicrous. Look at this number. You're basically over fishing boats level of capacity. You get 42 food before you drop off. Right? Other Civs are going to cap out at what, 35? It's actually pretty crazy. Magnet's now on the way. Dimmu. And he's got a military edge here. But now you're diving into the enemy base, right? With mass archers, it's kind of tricky to do enough damage. A really ballsy placement from Mirade as well. Building it this far forward could have actually backfired. Had Dimmu kept pushing. You know, vision matters, right? And we had the God vision. We know that there should have been a push there. He didn't. Why no mining upgrade for HRE? Because I don't think he was really gathering that much gold before he made this choice to tech. So it didn't make much sense at that point. Veteran C is now going to be in the way. 40 seconds out. Dimmu has to fish for something. Ranged armor 2 as well. He is stockpiling his own resources. This has to be Farimba. He has no cattle ready to go. Other tricky part is, like, I don't think he's got enough food for Farimba necessarily. No, like, look at him. He's pretty much exhausted at the stage, right? He's got, I think, 4 deer, maybe 5 under there. got 2 more coming home. Not really the long pump you're looking for out of Farimba. Meanwhile, Myriad, just as competitive on the deer, but also adding in farms now. There you go, Farimba coming in.
Freeborn seems likely here, which is weird because usually against HRE you always go Maximus Party.
But there's not really many men-at-arms for you to counter. Knights are following this up. He's about to get pinned. Myriad, could he do this? This would be an insane upset, guys. Remember, Dimu has been making it deeper and deeper. The only person he's failing to beat each week is B. What a big booster this would be to Myriad. Myriad, who I think... Would this not put him on the verge of his best performance? He's made some quarterfinals, I believe, once or twice. Definitely hasn't been able to keep that consistency with the matchups he's been getting. Clash coming in here. Archers aren't going to be diving under. The veterancy is not in for Dimu yet. He doesn't want this fight. He has no choice in it, though. And also, villagers being made to shuffle away quickly here. At this point, Dimu has no working economy after teching Farimba. A disastrous position to find yourself in. And I think it's going to remain that way until the end of time here. And it's just too many knights coming, right? And he's only got archers. Archers which aren't going to be able to clear these quick enough. Veterancy comes through, but at this stage, Myriad has more than you. And he's being optimal, right? He's chasing after any group of villages he can find. Dimu's going to try to return to work, but with more knights, more men-at-arms on the way, that work is going to be short-lived. Good lord. What a game. What a series out of Myriad, man. I mean, this has to be, like, in his eyes, probably biggest achievement of the weekly so far. Dimu's playstyle, I think, is well positioned to take on players like Myriad. And, ill or not, I know some people are going to debate that. It doesn't matter, dude. Win's a win. It's like when someone says, I won the tournament over you. And you went, yeah, but I got second place. Like, yeah, but you got second place. I still freaking won. A win is a win. And this was a well-earned victory. Let me know what you thought of this series, guys. Like, I was getting into this expecting to maybe be more, if Dimu lost games, it was going to be because he was ill, and you can argue that all you want, but I just think Myriad played a really solid series. Game 2, obviously, the question mark. I don't like the way that he approached the Delhi for the late game there. I think he probably acknowledges that was looking rough. But game 1, clean ram timing, perfect timing. And then in game 3, relentless pressure to show why HRE are kings in the face of the Malians.